everyone, it's Heather and Ashley from Canine Company. Here's one of our trainer talks, and today we want to talk about what to think about before you get a puppy, because we know that a lot of people have gotten puppies recently or are thinking about it. Now, let me tell you, Canine Company, we're professional trainers, and we don't necessarily recommend, a puppy for the holidays. However, this has been a quite different year this year, and we realized that we want to bring a little joy into our lives, and a lot of people are home. They're still working from home, or they're, back to working from home again. And so there's going to be plenty of time in the new year to be around a puppy, to help to, make sure that it gets the best start it can. Ashley has been doing a lot of kind of what to expect when you're expecting a puppy. And so, Ashley, you want to talk a little bit about the kind of things that families need to think about before they get a puppy home?
Definitely. There's so much preparation before you bring a dog even home. And it really comes down to just preparation. And we have something that's going to help you guys out. It's actually a cute little cheeky acronym, but it's a great thing to remember that encompasses A to Z for everything that you need. And it's not just for puppies, it's for a new dog. It doesn't matter if you are a new dog owner or have had dogs in the past. It's just really important to be prepared because you never know if anybody else in the household is at the same level that you're at. So the acronym that we have, and we're going to work through it, it's called Ready for Pup. And we're going to break it down and explain what each letter really means. And actually, to start, Heather, I'm going to throw it out there with our first letter, which is R in the ready. So the R stands for research. So Heather, what kind of research is really important to do before we get a puppy?
A lot of people used to research breeds, left and right. They would want a specific breed. They would want to know, you really want to know what your dog's background is, not your specific puppy, but what the breed brings to the table. Even if you're going to a shelter or a rescue organization and you're going to get a mutt or a mixed breed, they may know. So a lot of shelters have been gifted the little test to tell them what the dogs are made of, what their components are. So it's a good idea to know what you're getting into, because energy level and needs and grooming information, that all comes, it's very breed specific. So it's really important to know what you're getting yourself into when you get a breed. Is my dog kind of on the lazier side? Believe it or not, greyhounds are some of the biggest couch potatoes that you'll ever meet, right? Or does my dog need a job? Because if he does, and you live in an apartment and you don't have anything for him to do, that's going to be a problem. So you may need to rethink, what you're doing. So very important to research, grooming. We offer mobile grooming, as you know, but grooming your dog is really not, it's not just about beauty. It's about long-term health, coat health and overall physical health. And sometimes the grooming needs of specific breeds, or like I said, even if you're getting a mix, if you have a long coated dog or a double coated dog, that's something to think about as well. So do your research on what it is that you want, what you think might work for your family, lifespan of the puppy, all that kind of thing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The research side of it, it even goes beyond just the breed and the grooming. It's also, is there any predispositions known to the breed too? And also researching in your area, what kind of, we're going to dive into this a little later, but doing the research pertaining to the services too, breed reviews, really know the areas, ask friends and neighbors and questions to get all the information possible. What's the best kind of toys too? So really, really important. So our next letter is E in our ready. So E is to enlist the entire household. And I know, Heather, this is extremely important for you when we're doing obedience lessons to have everybody involved in the training. And I know why it's important, but can you explain why that's really important just overall?
Sure, absolutely. But, everybody wants to be on the same page in the household, because communication with your dog, consistent communication, is very key to helping your new dog learn where his place is in the household, how he can be comfortable, what your routines are, whether you're training for containment, like a canine fence, or whether you're training for obedience. It's very important that everybody understand how to interact with the dog, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, what the expectations are, even down to something as simple as naming the behaviors that you would like your dog to listen to, and what commands do you want to know. And so sometimes we have small children in the household, and we need to make sure that they know what their role is. as well as, sometimes we have teenagers and, they're like, "Ah, I couldn't be bothered with this," but they have to have a role as well. It's really important to enlist everyone's help so that the dog gets the best start that he can.
Definitely. And it's also enlisting to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So even going down to bathroom schedules, who's taking him out, walking schedules. It's a team effort. When you bring a dog home, it's not just for you. It's
Yeah.
anybody else who lives in the household, anybody else who spends a good amount of time in the household, they're also going to be a part of this dog's life. So really just making sure you're enlisting the help of the entire family, or creating almost like sounds weird to put it this way, but like a chore list. Like, all right, I'm going to take care of him in the morning. You're going to take care of him in the afternoon. You're going to take care of him at night. You're going to feed him here. So this way it's really set in stone.
And that
Um,
really leads us to our next letter, Ash,
yeah.
is A for ask questions, about who's going to do what.
Mhm.
What is the schedule going to be? How are we going to do? Are we going to crate train? So we really need to ask a lot of questions to ourselves and to the rest of the family.
Mhm. I am guilty of this as a child. I begged and pleaded for a dog, and I was like, I'll do anything. I will clean up after him. I will take him for walks. And yes, I was a responsible child. However, I will be honest, a lot of the time my parents ended up doing that. So being very realistic about what it is, even if the children or other members of the household will say they're going to do it, just be prepared, what's the backup plan, and
Yeah.
making sure that we understand everything aside of it. It's more than just I say I will. We have to stick to it.
Yeah.
Um, so tied into this, we talked a little bit earlier. So we have our R for research, E for enlist the household, A for ask our questions. And then we also have D, which is determine the service providers. And we talked about this before because it's so important to make sure that you have reputable sources for your veterinarian, your grooming, your training, if you're doing daycare and things like that. And so really just research, ask questions, ask who your friends and neighbors recommend, look online. We here at Canine Company provide a lot of that as well, and we could be that resource for you too. But it's so important to have this down before you bring your dog or puppy into the household. Have a game plan in place with this. Is there anything
That's
you'd like to
really,
add?
yeah, that's really important because, you don't want to think of this after the fact. One of the things that we do here at Canine is certify our groomers and our pet visitors with canine CPR and first aid training. So, it's important. We don't want to think about an emergency that might happen,
Mm-mm.
but if you don't have a vet lined up, or if you don't know where you're going to be taking your dog once you get him home, God forbid we should have an emergency right off the bat. If you
Mhm.
forgot to puppy proof your house and somebody swallows something that they shouldn't, you need to know where you're going to go right away. So before you bring that dog into your home, have a plan.
Yeah. And speaking of proofing, we have to yard prep,
Yes.
especially too, right? So that's
Yeah.
the Y in our ready and the ready for pup. So the Y is the yard prep. And there is, you have to think down to the littlest piece. If you were a dog and you could put things in your mouth, because that's really how they discover, and
Hmm.
it's not even just young puppies, even big dogs too, grown adult dogs, they still are discovering by, ooh, what's this? Let me put it in my mouth. And
Hmm.
so it's the small things like acorns, mushrooms, that kind of stuff. But it's also, where are you going to have the dog have access to in the yard? Where are you going to have your dog go to the bathroom? Is it right in the walking path or the play path of the kids? And really just thinking through, where in the yard do you want the dog to have access to? And Heather, you brought it up before. The canine fence is a great solution. It really helps create these boundaries, sets rules in the household. And so just having an idea of what you want the outside to look like, it's just going to help ease that stress for when it is time to go to the bathroom or play
Yeah.
outside and
Very
everything.
true. If you have an idea, even if you don't get your canine fence, or if you have a fenced in yard or whatever, if you don't get your canine fence until your puppy is a little bit older or he's been at your home for a little while, know ahead of time where you might want to put your boundaries and kind of designate a potty area and make sure that it's away from where those boundaries are. I mean, the back corner of a yard is great, but if that's going to be an off limits area once you get your new containment system, then then you're going to have to retrain your dog to a new spot for potty. So yard prep is super important. You mentioned the mushrooms and the things that can be poisonous or toxic to your dogs. Also being aware of anything that might be detrimental to his running around the yard. Make sure
Mhm.
that there's nothing, no old fence parts or no old,
That's a good
screws or
point.
anything like that in the yard from construction. Very important just to make sure that he's safe and healthy. So we're done with the ready word. Ashley, what's next?
Yes, ready. And now we're on the four. So
Mhm.
ready for, and F is for funds, not fun, guys. I'm sorry. Not
Yeah,
F
there's
is
going to
for
be
fun,
plenty
who
of
do things
fun, but
together.
there's going to be plenty
Yes.
of funds too.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And working alongside a lot of animal shelters and rescue organizations, it's sad to say, but this is one of the reasons sometimes that a young puppy or dog will come back to the shelter is this unrealistic expectation of how much a dog can cost. It's cute, it's fluffy, it's great, but those, especially as a puppy, there are multiple vet visits in the beginning to get them updated on their vaccines, because it's not just one vaccine. They need boosters, and sometimes some vaccines require 2 or 3. So each time is a visit. If there's anything that's emergency, it's not just what you're there for. There's fluids, there's medication, there's x-rays, MRIs. It could be a whole slew of stuff. We talked about grooming too, especially if it requires constant upkeep, and that does have a cost to it. And the thing is if you could prepare for it, you're ready. But when it becomes something that you don't expect, that's when it can be, really tough, on the family, on the household. There are so many things to look into. Pet insurance,
Yeah.
it's a really great one. Look into it right away. Don't wait on that. And there's also other places that will help assist with funds if you find that it becomes too much. So there are alternatives out there too, but just being prepared that dogs and puppies are not cheap. There's other
Yeah.
things too. There's supplies. I mean, Heather, what supplies
Yeah.
just to start off the household with
Oh,
is needed for a pup?
so many. It's so much more than just the initial outlay of whatever you pay for your dog, even if you adopt them at a low cost. Or if you go straight to a breeder and you get a high cost puppy, the maintenance costs is amazing between food and Ashley, you mentioned grooming, puppy pads if you're going
Mhm.
that route for potty training, flea and tick meds or
Mm,
collars if that's how you're going. There are so many products on the market that you could get for your puppy, but there are so many things that you do need for your puppy.
yeah.
Nail trims are important for their overall health long term. All of the things there's a lot of maintenance. It's like buying a car. you put money out initially, but then you have to get oil changes. You have to fix things.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, sometimes things break unexpectedly, like you mentioned. And pet insurance is a really great way to go because veterinary bills, as some of our friends and family can attest to, are not cheap. So
No.
know what you're getting into before you
Yep.
get it.
And that ties right back into research. There's a lot of different pet insurances out there. So research, find the right one for you,
Sure.
and then start it as soon as possible. It's one thing you don't want to wait with.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our ready and our F. So our O is organize,
Yeah.
which, it's really organizing the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And Heather, you've mentioned in our other trainer talks before, really how important the schedule is. I feel like we've been blue in the face about it, but it's so important and it's beyond just potty training, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Feeding schedules and potty training schedules are very important, but dogs thrive on routine.
Mhm.
But organizing your schedule around what your work life is going to look like, what your school life, your kid's school life is going to look like, and how is that going to affect who's going to take care of the dog, who's going to be there to let them out for potty, how much crate time are they going to have? And crate is not a bad thing. And you just have to, you
Mhm.
just have to make sure that it's reasonable, but also having a schedule so that your dog isn't just bored. Because as we know, if we are working from home, sometimes we have dogs that are lazing around on the couch all day. So we have to make sure that we put in our schedule, in our organization, time for play and time for exercise. That's very, very important to a dog's overall health.
Definitely. And this really ties into that second one in our ready, the E, enlist the household, because you can't just be reliant on yourself. If you're by yourself, that's completely fine. But if there's other members of the household, really lean on them, share the responsibility. But it's the routine is so important. I still remember my dog, anytime I take out my running shoes, he thinks he's going for a run too. But it's great. It's a great experience. So in lieu of our four, we have funds, organize, and then we talked about yard prep before, but now the R is reinforce the house.
Mm-hmm.
And young or old, if
Yep.
it's a new dog coming into the household, you want to do this because you don't know what their little nuances are. They're going to be exploring. There might be a little bit of boredom. And so really just preparing and setting yourself up for success. So what are some things that we can do to prepare the house, Heather?
Well, listen, I am a huge fan of crate training. I think that dogs need their own space, and you may have heard or people have had the impression that crate training is punishment. It's not. Give your dog a room of his own. A
Mm-hmm.
place where he can go and get away from the hectic day that he's had. Even if his hectic day is laying on the couch, maybe there was too much noise from the computer or the TV or the kids running around. He wants to retire to a place where he can call his own and he can feel safe and comfortable.
Definitely.
So having a place that's designated for your dog. Aside from that, a little bit of larger space, maybe you use baby gates, maybe you use
Mm-hmm.
invisible fence brand shields to block off a portion of the house where you want your dog to be. Most people choose the kitchen because it's got some sort of easy floor to clean up in the event
Mm-hmm.
of accidents. But giving your dog full run of the home initially, as soon as he comes home, is not a good idea. It's too much space. It's overwhelming. That may lead to marking. It may lead to potty accidents in different areas of the home. So
Mm-hmm.
really restricting his access and reinforcing the home to make sure that he has access to common space that you use, kitchen, maybe living room. Stairs may not even be an option for a young dog at first. They may not learn it. And just being aware of where they are so they're in sight and they're not down the hallway in the spare bedroom getting into trouble and chewing on, electrical cords that you didn't even know were there because you don't
True.
use that room very often. So,
True,
yeah.
very true. And also just picking things up. Set your dog up for success. Don't give them the ability to chew the slippers or the remote controller or things like that. Be very cognizant of where items are laid in the household before the dog even comes home so
Mhm.
that you can kind of address it. Remember when we get a dog, you're not going to be able to put that there. So go ahead and move it up to a little of a higher surface. And then eventually you are going to, through training, be able to leave that remote, on a lower counter. But in the beginning, let's not even set them up to fail or chew it and cause that frustration. Really want that transition to be really smooth and seamless. Tied into that too is also where are you going to keep the toys?
Mhm.
We talked about this before too. The toys should not always be all accessible. You do want to rotate them. So where are the toys going to be stored? How many toys are you going to have out? Because let's be honest, when you first get a dog or a puppy, we overextend on the toys. They need 15 of these and four
Yeah.
of these.
Yeah. Oh, this is so cute. I have to have this.
Yes. But it's just puppy proofing, whether it's an older dog or a newer dog, puppy proofing the house.
Mhm.
And keeping in mind too, where are you guys going to be having food and dinner? And if there's young children in the house, so where do they normally eat? I know a lot of households have I don't know if you could picture it, the little plastic table. It's like 2x2 and the tiny little
Mhm.
chairs.
Mhm.
That is perfect nose height
Yeah.
for every single dog, big or small, to
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like vacuum.
Yeah.
So creating maybe new routines prior to, or just being aware of what areas the dog has access to during eating time, whether it's lunch or dinner and so on. So we have our ready in four. So
Mhm.
research, enlist the household, ask our questions, determine your service providers, and yard prep. That's a ready. And four is funds, organize, and reinforce the house. And now we have the last and final word, the pup. So P for pup is patience.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of
This
patience.
one is really close to my heart. And I know yours too, Ashley, because having worked with so many shelters in your history, and throughout our time with Canine Company as well, our shelter partners are very important to us. And one thing that we need to advocate for is give your new dog some time to acclimate to your home. And it takes him 3 weeks to start to learn your routine. And then it can take up to 3 months for him to really feel comfortable, like, okay, this is my home. This is where I belong.
3 months is an average. It could take shorter, like you mentioned, Heather, but
Yeah.
it also can take longer. And be aware of the little successes because you'll see them.
Yep.
So we have P for patience, and then U for understanding the resources. And this one is so important. It's like an acronym within an acronym we're going to do. So don't get
Yes.
confused, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So what are the resources, Heather? I know this is your favorite thing.
Yeah, this is something that I talk about on every e-trial that we have and most first trainings for obedience. Your dog will work for and needs certain resources in his life. There are things that he finds out that he may be able to access by himself, but it would be better if you control these resources. Most of the resources fall within a category of four, and those four are space, attention, food, and entertainment. So that spells safe. Space, attention, food, entertainment. Everything that your dog wants and needs falls within those resources, including his breakfast and dinner, access to the house and yard, playtime with you, attention, affection, exercise, toys, all that kind of stuff. So those resources are things that should not be laid out as a buffet for your dog. These are things that if you control them, then you can grant your dog access to them when they earn them through behavior.
It's so important. And the one that gets personally that I feel gets commonly forgotten or gets taken advantage of is the space.
Yeah,
And it
totally.
ties back into what we were talking about with the reinforcing the house is limit the space in the beginning as they've proven they can be trusted. Then you can open up a little bit more of the yard. The crate training side of it, being released from the crate and having access to the house is a reward. Being released from the house, having access to the backyard is a reward. Being able to cuddle with you in your own personal bubble is
Yeah.
a reward, and just being very aware of those things, because if we were biting you, pulling on your sweatshirt, and then all of a sudden you pick them up, well, we just rewarded that behavior. So just being very aware of those things. All right, so we have our patience, our understand our resources, and then our last P in our pup is provide training. So what a great transition that biting on the sweatshirt was.
Yeah, there we
um,
go.
but we have a slogan here in a way that it's a true statement. No dog is done learning or done training. It's true because you can teach an old dog new tricks,
Sure can.
and you can teach a young puppy, obviously, a lot of information, but it's never too late to change a behavior. It's just how much, and this is actually going to tie back into the patience, being aware that a trainer coming into the house is not a magic trick. All right. We are there to teach and educate and train the household just as much as we are there to train and teach and educate the dog.
Mhm.
But it is going to take practice, repetition, and the practical application in a progressive way. So we see it all the time, right? Where it's like, I want my dog to greet a person nicely at the front door. And they're like, okay, let's go ahead and try. It's like, well, we're not there yet. Let's
Yeah.
go ahead and introduce a behavior. So it ties really back to patience, that it's going to take progressive steps to get where you need to, but it's so important to be able to get there.
Yeah, actually, I think that your provide training really ties back into everything else in the acronym because sometimes it's providing training for yourself and your
Mhm.
family as well. It's very important. Ashley mentioned that we're coaches in this relationship with you. If you choose to come and train with us, we come to your home either virtually like this or on site. And we really want to be your coaches and your cheerleaders, but we want you to have the breakthroughs with your dog and the real
Mhm.
aha moments because it feels so good to know that you can communicate with your pet that way. It's not, we don't want to walk in and be able to command your dog to do something. We won't do that, as a matter of fact, because when you are able to do it, when we're able to coach you to a point that you can create the kind of expectations in life that you want with your pet for your family, that is such a rewarding experience. And so having your ready for pup prep done, having a trainer in mind, if you choose to come to Canine Company, we'd love to have you. Having all of that stuff ready. If you need to talk about how, what exactly do I do for the funds part? How, can you outline this for me? What
Mhm.
exactly do I do for the house proofing part, for reinforcing the home? Come to us, give us a call, let us know. We are always ready to talk about your dog, right, Ash? We say
Definitely.
that every time. So we would love to chat with you about prepping for puppy, and we certainly hope that if you are thinking about bringing a dog into your home, that it's a wonderful experience for you.
Definitely. So just in case you guys missed it, just to
Mhm.
review it, we have our acronym ready for pup. And so we have R is for research, E is for enlist the household, A, ask our questions. D, determine the services. And then Y, yard prep. So that's the ready. Then we have 4, which is funds, organize and reinforce the house. And then we have PUP, which is patience, understanding the resources and providing the training. So if we can knock off each of those, you'll be in pretty good shape for when you have your puppy or dog come into your household.
Absolutely. We hope all of you have a wonderful holiday season, and we look forward to speaking with you. You can call us at Canine Company. You can click caninecompany.com or go on the Canine Company app on iPhone or Android.
Bye, guys.
Have a great day.